Right. I'm here today with Hilltop's founder and CEO, Paul Oberschneider, to talk about the firm's latest credit stream platform. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks very much for having me, Andrea. Pleasure to be here on this catastrophe, this very hot day we have in London.
Definitely.
Nice
So,
to be in the air conditioning.
definitely jealous of that. So first off, can you tell me more about Credit Stream? How exactly does it work, and how does it help out brokers and other clients?
So sure. So as an investment credit manager in the direct private lending space, we spend an inordinate amount of time, obviously, underwriting deals, trying to filter through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of deals. We specifically started working on Credit Stream about 9 months ago. And what Credit Stream is really a proprietary, tech-based, automated system that we've designed and built over the last 9 months, which basically takes everything that we do and manages it. And what that does by using technology, data sources, and automation, what it allows us to do is really make better decisions faster, and for our clients. And of course, every business is about customer service, right? So for our clients, what it does is it allows them to access and go through the credit process, I'd say 3 to 4 times faster than what we've historically been doing.
And who exactly is it designed for? Who can use the platform?
Well, that's a good question. So, real estate historically and even today is a very analog business. Everything is done in a very old-fashioned way. It's bricks and mortar. There's a lot of people doing a lot of underwriting and a lot of analysis. I mean, a lot of that's not going to go away, but it's how you manage that process that's important. So what we've tried to do is make the process easier for our borrowers. So the person that's going to use this is both internal teams and external teams, meaning that our platform will allow collaborators on any deal to have access to specific things they're invited to or allowed to access, which means that people get to see the same stuff at the same time in real time. And it's more than a file management system because we use lots of integrated APIs and technology. But basically what it does is it's like putting everyone in the same room at the same time and allows you to work on the deal quickly.
So it's basically just making it easier for all parties to work together and ultimately get the finance that the borrower needs.
Exactly. And you can dialogue with collaborators at the same time while you're on the platform. There are reminders that are sent. There's a lot of integration, a lot of communication integration that goes into the platform, which allows for a really steady stream, which is why we kind of call it credit stream. All right. Which allows for a really steady stream of information flow and communication. Because in a lot of these deals, especially the more complex deals, things get lost. Things get misinterpreted. Certain people don't get information that they've asked for, and there's no real trail of how that's done. And I know a lot of people talk about having tech and using tech, but as we went through our peer group analysis, we found that most of what was on the market was nothing really more than PDFs that you had to download. And we wanted this to be actually a tool that helped everybody.
So would you say that desire and that need for a smoother communication was really what the idea that made this platform get born, really? Was that the starting point?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if not us, someone else, right? I mean, real estate being quite analog is moving very slowly into tech. And, I think eventually there's going to be a lot of AI and a lot of data sources brought into decision making. And it's happening slowly. We want to be at the forefront of that. So the best way to communicate, the best way to integrate, the best way to onboard clients, to monitor projects afterwards, because this is what it does as well, is it helps us not only post completion of the deal, but it allows us to manage the portfolio. All of that only helps really the borrower and ourselves, and of course our investors and our all the people behind the curtain that we speak to. So it's a system, I think, where everybody wins.
Mhm. And would you say that this tech platform also helps with risk management and also just security in general, rather than the traditional way of lending?
Well, I think that the security aspect, that's pretty much stays the same. What it does allow us to do is analyze, for example, one of the data sources we use, it allows us to analyze upwards of 28 million data sources, including new bills in the market at any given point in time. So that gives us a lot of information to help us make better decisions. It just speeds up the process. And in this particular market, as things get more complex and more difficult, as the market dislocates a little bit, which is, I think, what we're seeing right now, we're seeing a lot more deals come our way because lenders have retreated, banks are retreating again, but we're not seeing very good deals in many cases. So what this allows us to do is filter through the less appealing transactions quicker, so that we can actually get to deals that we would actually like to do. So it just reduces time. I mean, tech is all about doing more with less. You're never going to remove the human element, because real estate is about anticipating trends and, identifying opportunities. It's about location. It's about lots of things. So, that human element stays. It's not just a tick box system that here's a CP checklist and you run through it. That's not what this is at all. This is actually a functioning tool.
It's interesting that you actually decided to launch this type of platform in the current state of the market, when developers are facing a lot of uncertainty and a lot of issues with supply chains, labor, all this sort of stuff. Would you say that the launch of the platform was something that you hope, or you aim to sort of remedy or like help out with these issues that developers are facing?
Well, we're a very bespoke credit manager. We kind of look at our borrowers more as partners rather than borrowers. So, our backgrounds, our DNA as a firm is very equity based. So, we kind of sit on the fence between creditor or lender and borrower. We're looking at the real estate. We understand the cyclical risks that a lot of people maybe that sit in banks don't. I mean, I not to age myself, but I'd say a lot of the people that are making credit decisions today were probably born after 1982. And if you think about that, you've been in a 40-year bull market, right? Not a lot of people have been through a certain amount of credit cycles and recessions and downturns. So there's that human element that I think Hilltop brings to any deal. And the tech just allows us to use what we know as individuals and amplify our skill set in a better way. Now, borrowers, there's never a good time. I mean, the best time to do anything is like right now. I'm not a timing guru. I have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow, but I know today what my need is. So this was designed on a needs-be basis, which is, I think, for any product, whether you're talking real estate or cosmetics. I mean, it's what is the consumer, what is the ultimate customer need? How do you help him make better decisions? How do because what this can also do is it can tell borrowers, don't do this deal because of these 10 things, and when they're on the system, they can see what those are. So it's very transparent. So it's a very consumer focused, service oriented system, in my opinion.
And I know that you mentioned you've done a lot of research before launching this platform, and you've clearly worked hard on it before putting it out in the market. How important would you say is to incorporate technology in your business? How much of a priority is it?
The bus is leaving. I think that people have to get on board with the shift or they're going to be left behind. And, it's all about information. It's all about this dissemination of information and having the right information and being able to interpret that, which is, I think, the direction that we all need to be moving in. So, this is a very highly global competitive market, a lot of smart people in this business, in any business, and to remain competitive, you've got to constantly be looking for that next edge. You constantly need to be looking for the advantage. And we hope that this gives us that advantage in being able to filter through lots of deals to find the ones we truly want to do, and to help our borrowers make the right decisions.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of being left behind, I think a lot of other firms in the development finance market are feeling the same at the moment, feeling the pressure to innovate and enhance their services. And we have seen a few of them also implement technology to help improve their service. So how would you say the Credit Stream platform differs from other lenders in prop tech offering?
Well, there are a lot of tools on the marketplace, and you can cobble together lots of them and try to kind of create something. And I think that's what a lot of people have done. And we ourselves look at all these tools as well. I think what we've tried to do that makes us different is pull the most important components through our 30 years of experience in the real estate market. What are the most important things that we need to be really paying attention to and looking at? So whether that's data sourcing, whether it's the automation of process, whether it's the integration of APIs that we think are important. For example, open banking. That's a tool that's out there. It's available to anyone. As a private lender, we don't have the ability, like a high street bank, to see what comes and goes in people's accounts once we do drawdowns. This allows us to do that. And one of the things that we do is we require our borrowers to renew that every 3 months. That means every 3 months they're reminded that we're looking, and it's preventative. It just prevents things from kind of going off track, if you get my meaning. And so we've taken these different tools that we feel are super important and pull them all together. And I think that's what makes a difference, makes us different than what's out there. As I said earlier, we looked at a number of peer group platforms, and a lot of them are there are a few, but many of them are PDFs that you download and fill out. And you still have that dislocation of information flow that goes back and forth, where you've got a lot of people doing a lot of things. I mean, eventually where technology is going to take us, not in this space, but also in the equity and the underwriting space, is, instead of hiring a room full of junior analysts at a big salary sitting on Berkeley Square, a lot of this stuff is going to be done in the cloud, with remote groups working across the world. And that's where we're heading. Not to say those people on Berkeley Square are going to be replaced, but you won't need 10 of them, you need 2, right? So I think that's where this is all going. It's certainly not going to happen tomorrow, but maybe the next day.
And now that the platform is launched, you mentioned that you expect it to help developers access funds up to like 3 times faster. With that in mind, do you expect to see an increase in lending for Hilltop? And if so, how much higher do you expect it to be following the launch?
So we've beta tested the product a few times with developers, and I'll just give you an example. The last one we did, what would normally have taken us 6 to 8 weeks to do, we did in under a week. To be specific, one of them did it in 48 hours. We got, and again, the borrower needs to be prepared and have information available. I mean, clearly, the system is only as good as the input you put in. And so, the onus is on the borrower to be prepared when they actually come to do a deal. Assuming in a perfect world, that's all available. This allows us to go a lot faster. Now, given where we are, it's summertime, it's 38 degrees out. Everyone feels like they're in Spain on holiday. Rates are a bit uncertain. We've got a political situation in the background that everyone's kind of thinking about and focused on. I think summers historically have always been a bit of a dip in transaction volumes. And everybody comes back after their summer holidays in September and tries to make up for lost time and hits the road hard. I think you'll see the same thing again. But I do think on top of that, you will be seeing, you'll have a wait and see attitude by a lot of lenders. People will kind of not close shop, but just sit on their hands, ponder what the market's going to do. And I see that as, I've always seen situations like that as a real opportunity. I mean, Hilltop actually came into existence during COVID. And while everyone worked from home and stopped doing stuff, we went out there and we opened the door and we were in business, and that gave us a clear advantage. And, historically, I've always looked for opportunities where people get nervous, people get scared, pricing gets dislocated. The fundamentals are still there. I mean, there's still the structural imbalance of supply and demand in the market. That's not going away, because if you look at the statistics, completions have been going down year and year after year, especially through Brexit. So the problem is still there. The problem still needs to be solved. I think you will see shifts in strategies. You're seeing it now. There's a lot of interest from institutional investors at trying to figure out how to tackle the BTR space, getting away from build to sell versus rent. People are looking for income. I mean, real estate is a great inflation hedge. Income producing real estate is a great inflation hedge if you can link your rents on a short-term basis. So I think there's going to be a bit of a shift in focus from investors, but it's not going to slow down tremendously.
Mm-hmm. So, but just for Hilltop specifically, do you expect the launch of the platform to drive more business?
Oh, of course. Yes. I mean, yes, because we'll be able to filter through more things. I mean, ideally, this will allow us to filter more deals and do better deals and make better decisions on those deals. So, theoretically, our loan book should start to improve as well. In a big picture sort of way.
Mm-hmm. Do you expect it to raise by a certain amount, or are you hoping to reach a specific lending target?
Not really. I haven't put a number on that. Maybe I should, but I haven't. I just kind of, see what the next thing I need to do is, and I eventually get there. But yeah, I don't have any real lending targets. I mean, I do for the business for this year. But I don't have what, the impact of this is going to have. I think it should have a pretty large impact overall.
No, absolutely. And it's going to be interesting to see how it's going to go, especially now that tech is such a big thing. in the specialist finance sector. Speaking of seeing what the next step is, you seem to be focusing on like what's next and like always progressing. What is the next step for Hilltop in terms of tech innovation?
Well, as I said, the next phase of this is to complete the build out of the project management system. And we have been wireframing that and determining what tools, what things we want to see, what do our investors want to see, how do we facilitate drawdowns easier. There's a whole basket of things that we're putting into the property management, project management aspect, and loan monitoring aspect of this. So that's the next step. Beyond that, I'm sort of daydreaming, but and I'm not ready to share, but there is a third, but I think it's further down the line. So the next step, concrete step, is to complete the loan monitoring and project management system.
I see. With everybody in the market suddenly looking at tech in general as a solution to improve business and improve their service, do you think there is a potential risk of lenders becoming overly reliant on technology and using it too much and kind of missing out the human element?
Of course. I mean, sure. And, tech's one of those words like, I went through the dot-com bubble when, tech's one of those things that gets everyone excited because it's like on everyone's mind today. It's not going away, but, it's not the be all end all either. Building a business is about building relationships. At the end of the day, when we went through COVID, I think that was a very difficult time for a lot of businesses because everyone got really comfortable working from home and using Zoom, but you don't get that human interaction that you need to create to make stuff happen. I think it's the human interactions that you have at the water cooler. I think it's the human interactions you have over lunch. I think it's the human interactions of going to see sites that build those strong relationships amongst parties. And you can't replace that with tech. And tech cannot replace going. I was at 3 sites this past weekend. Tech cannot replace getting in the car, going to look at a site. I'm a real estate guy. I need to see what's around. I need to drive around. I need to look around. I need to kick the tires, smell the air, and see whether or not that's the kind of asset that I would want to own or want to lend to, or, is that because real estate's all about location and it's about anticipating the next event. Right? So you need that human interaction, in my opinion, to make a business grow. You cannot do that off a computer sitting in an office building.
No, I agree, because at the end of the day, nothing is a checklist. Every project is different. Every little thing matters. So you do need that human element to assess things as they should be, with an open mind, but also being able to anticipate all these changes that you mentioned. So my last question is more of an ambiguous one.
Okay.
Is how do you expect the development finance market to evolve in the next few years? And where do you see Hilltop Capital fitting in this new development market?
Well, again, business is driven by need. And, when we started this business a few years ago, there was an apparent need. You had a lot of peer-to-peer people coming into the market to try to address that problem. Of course, nobody was doing any underwriting, and retail money was flooding into them. And a lot of those guys are gone now, which is a good thing. And so development finance in a private way has gotten very sophisticated in just the last 3 years. And, you know, a lot of our competitors are very sophisticated lenders. A lot of institutional capital doesn't really like development finance. So capital raising has always been a bit of an issue. It's been expensive for guys like us. I think that's going to change. And I think that's going to change depending on the strategy. So without going into great detail, if I can take a deal from cradle to grave, meaning I can provide certain levels of financing at different stages, and then also have a solution for a takeout, and I can de-risk the world of my external partners, then that's what I'm going to do. And I see that as a need. So that's what we're kind of focusing it on, is how do we make this universally more beneficial to everyone, not just being a lender to that guy. How do we stay involved? How do we help the whole process from start to finish? And I think if we do that, that allows us to grow exponentially across not only the UK, but as you know, our partners at Roundhill have a big European presence. Our plan next year is to start lending in those markets as well. We're bringing on new talent to help us do that are familiar with those European markets. And so that's quite exciting for us. Where this business is going to be in 5 years, I couldn't tell you. And if I did, I'd be lying to you, because, you know, 30 years ago, if you'd said I was going to do this or this or that, I would have never believed you. You know, my kind of MO is just show up every day and get the job done and solve problems. And you eventually will get to where you need to be. Do I have a business plan? Yes, it's, you know, constantly changing. It has a direction, but you have to be needs-based driven.